Good afternoon, LinkedIn friends, Value First Nation. Welcome to another episode of Value First Platform AI Data Readiness here with Trisha and Erin. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday.
How are we doing today? Are we surviving the week? Are we surviving May? 6 days in?
I have gotten probably 6 inches of snow in the last 24 hours. So it doesn't even really feel like May to me. I'm like back in January somewhere. And
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
my dogs are very happy about it. So, I mean, I can't be too upset because they're having the time of their life. But yeah, it's a lot. It's May. Come on. Like, it's May.
I don't like that.
Yeah, you could have taken this off. Like, I know how traumatic that could be.
Right. Right. I literally went to the store in shorts the other day, like just the other day. So it won't last, but it's a lot. Denver.
That's really the worst too, when you get those like 30-degree temperature changes.
Mm-hmm.
After the mindset changes of like, all right, ready for summer, let's go.
Right.
But as much as we'd love to talk about summer readiness or snow readiness today, we are going to be talking about AI data readiness. And this is why I need people like you in my life, Trisha. Like the need to go back and review stuff, not a strength of mine, in case anybody has not noticed. Like to do more content, new content, build stuff without looking back. So I appreciate your suggestion today that we take a minute and talk about what we've learned on this series.
And I wasn't here for a lot of it, so I'm excited to chime in on some things.
There you go.
Yeah.
So what have we learned, Trisha?
I came up with a top 5 list. Claude came up with a top 5 list. With number 1 being you can't measure what you can't connect. Meaning, and that's going to architecture with data flowing between systems and it being like disconnected from the system. Mm-hmm. Which is I think that might have been the very first one that we talked about, Chris, because you ended up talking about the unified customer view. I mean, to be honest, you've brought it up a number of times. It often goes back to the unified customer view, but so much of what we're trying to solve for does go back to, does everybody who needs to work with this customer have a single source of truth and a place where they can go to get the answer? Or are they looking for it in all kinds of disparate systems? And if they're in disparate systems, do those systems say the same thing?
Usually they don't.
Usually they
don't. Like ever. Yeah, I think the like the unified customer view is kind of a hack, like too. Like people have been asking to help clean up HubSpot or help us do better in HubSpot or help us integrate systems. We want to start over from scratch because our system is so messy, and somehow that's going to solve our poor processes and understanding of data, maintenance and process. And so it's been interesting to see that, like, in last year we talked about this, where leaders were starting to understand that unified context and clean data was paramount and going to get in their way with anything regarding AI. I think AI, the arrival of AI is like pushed in the direction of everybody's known about problem forever, but there's like, it hadn't been solved, probably still hasn't been solved. You think the smartest entity ever to exist is going to help you solve it. And then when you find out that, oh, it's based on our poor systems and our poor process and our lack of understanding. And unified customer view has a way of like kind of simplifying without getting into the details that people have a hard time. Like it's a way to translate, like if you want unified context or a data source of truth, there's so much other stuff that gets in the way, where if you focus on that stuff, you'll be paying lots of money and very rarely get to that end goal. But when you focus on the end point, that's not just being able to send emails or get leads or close deals faster or all these other goals. And instead you make it about this unified customer view that teams can align around, and it just cuts through all the dysfunction that gets in the way of connecting these systems properly. So that's what I've found to like get teams to move. Like humans need to move in order to connect the systems that are disconnected, right?
Humans need to move to connect the systems that are disconnected. What does that mean? Because I'm like, they have to move like this.
I mean, you need to get them doing that first. Like last week on Friday, this is the kind of thing like when it's such a technical space, you have all these builders and everybody loves like solving this problem through technology, right? And trying not to deal with the humans like as you do it, right? And last Friday, I'm on a call with a client that's reliant on a specific spreadsheet, right? Meanwhile, the organization has invested in moving into HubSpot, like getting their HubSpot clean and integrating and doing all of the things. And then you find this spreadsheet that is clearly a safety blanket, that if you do not get rid of that, there will be no adoption of the system. And even in the case of HubSpot, bless their hearts, like trying to create Data Hub and Data Studio that, you don't have to bring your spreadsheets in, and we can just connect to it over there. Like you're missing the point. If it's a spreadsheet where the data already exists in HubSpot, we just don't know how to find it. So we're on this call and we've got the data model figured out. We decided as a team, we're going to use the contact record view as a surface to depend on and work from. And we're just adding native CRM cards from a deal, from other associated records, where now you can edit the other records from the contact record. And it's just like they love it. Like that's the thing. It's like once you bring the context together, that's the click. Like until you see that, HubSpot and AI and all these systems are just this black box. I don't know how it works. I'm never going to know how it works. So please just do it for me. And then I'll figure out how we're going to adopt it. We never get to that second part when you're doing it all for them. So that's what I mean by like figuring out where the sticking point is for the humans. And if they will not move from there, like even verbally, right? Sometimes you have to solve for that first.
I think I'm seeing this kind of play out a little bit in one of my current clients too, where we're integrating a data lake. So there's just basically just a big data table that's running different SQL queries and pushing it over to HubSpot. And so what I've been kind of helping work through is how to take that like flat data structure, where essentially this is a big table with like a bajillion columns and everything is just a data point that's kind of like a flat structure. And it's just like, it always surprises people when I tell them like, oh, well, it's not going to map 1-to-1. Like, we're not going to do a flat structure in HubSpot because that's doing you a disservice, because of how HubSpot has engineered certain features. Like, you're always going to be better off using line items on a deal as opposed to like a bunch of properties that have that information on the deal. Like, there are intrinsic things about what you're mapping to that make it better at some things than it is at others, and opens up possibilities that you wouldn't have had before with a flat structure. So it's an interesting kind of thing to think about, when I can kind of compare those two like really common data structures where it's like flat versus everything that like the relational aspects of HubSpot. And there's just like, there's so much to consider when you're doing stuff like that, of to like, okay, which surface is going to actually answer the questions. And I think when somebody has like an extra spreadsheet or something floating around, it's because they have a specific question that they're asking and an answer that they're looking for that doesn't exist in HubSpot right now. And so like, that's the signal of like what you need to go and solve and connect. But like, to the kind of AI and like data readiness piece, being mindful of the surfaces that you're mapping that data to, is very similar to like understanding how the context is going to work in that like flow of information through AI, to where, okay, AI is not going to be great at this kind of recall. And so we need to be able to give it exact dates and exact like functions. Like, let's take some of the cognitive load off of, doing the calculations, and instead have roll up properties and calculated properties. So figuring out not only how to get the data into HubSpot, but how to make sure that the data in HubSpot is positioned correctly. And there's just been like, HubSpot has so much engineering in the actual, like how the data structure works. If you know it well and you can map to it well, then you're more equipped to use that information in more ways downstream. And I think that kind of stands to reason for the AI side of things as well.
Yep.
I remember, Chris, when we talked about this first time around, you had a take on this as well, that was, you don't have to connect everything. And because some people are going to get overwhelmed, right? Like, if you tell me I have to connect all the external systems to make this actually work right, like, I'm just going to throw my hands up in the air, because it feels like 2030 is when we could actually do that. So you had a take on how to approach that, and without it being overwhelming. Do you remember what you said? Or is it different? Like, I mean, it's been a couple of months. Would it be different if I asked you that question today?
No. And I'm gonna, like, I think this sets a good foundation for the rest of our conversation too. Like, like the human element, like on the left side, so we see like nothing really connected, somewhat organized, like naturally based on human process. And these background circles represent tribal knowledge, right? Required to operate every layer, whether or not a system or document is in place. And once we start to understand what the data means, and this is what happens, like when we decide, okay, this is going to be our unified customer view, or this is going to be our unified revenue view. It's not full of data yet, but this is how we need it to look to truly serve everybody on the team and set up individualized views without creating a bunch of noise for everybody, without teams having to fight over the deal information, because that's where we put 20 stages, like to document the entire business process. And people do this all the time because it's the only place they think they can do stage gate pipelines, like in HubSpot. Once you say, okay, let's do it, let's model it this way, because now the data will have meaning for everybody that wants to see a customer, like customer information. Once you decide that, it's like, okay, how do we get the data here? And if that data is stuck in the ERP and you don't own it, and you have to go through an IT team and wait 6 months to even talk about it, the same person that likely is spending hours entering data from the CRM to the ERP or from the ERP to the CRM, once you like solidify and document the data model required to support the unified customer view, you can say, hey, IT or whoever, like, if you can just give me an export at the end of each day with this data on it, I can create a 10 minutes or less export import process to bring HubSpot up to speed every day, right? And that's where finding all these moments where, okay, if the tribal knowledge is required here, it's not going anywhere. If we choose to like try and automate processes and like not involve the customer facing team because they don't have time, so we're just going to build all this stuff over here. Like there's just like seemingly an infinite like pool of context that will always be missed. And you will not find moments like that. And people are like, all right, I guess we're stuck for 6 months instead of saving hours immediately. And while also starting to help people understand like how these systems like can work, should work. Because really step one is helping people believe that a unified customer view is even possible, like in the first place, right? Was that the take that you remember?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm consistent sometimes. That's good. And I think this speaks to number two, of the data being incomplete in ways that are very hard to find, like the shadow data, the unstructured data that's been sitting outside of systems. Like most people are using inboxes like an Outlook. Like that's the actual CRM for a lot of sales teams, right? Whenever they have any question about any customer relationship or buyer or prospect, they're going to go search like Outlook or Gmail. And when you can frame it for them like that, it's like, oh, it means there's a lot of context and a lot of data. But as they do that, they're also communicating with other teams, and then they're putting the data in the spreadsheet. Like there's no way possible to maintain the data in a spreadsheet, or as I'm replying all to the next customer, I'm like, hey, Erin, was this the thing that we talked about doing for the customer next week? Okay. Oh no, it's the week after that? Okay, cool. Like type of way, right? It's like this shadow processes that really came from, working in person together. Like if we're at the desk, we're in our brick wall office today, and I can just be like, hey, Erin, you remember this conversation last week? Like when you see that happen in real time and you understand how CRMs work and like data, you're like, oh, okay. Now, how do we get that verbal exchange when it's so easy and so natural to us? Like that's the human element that is seemingly very hard to replace inside of like AI-based systems. Like you have to embrace that at some point. so a lot of this is like not getting rid of tribal knowledge, and instead, how do we leverage it, like to have our humans involved at the right spots, right? Because they are the channels of all of the shadow data.
I want to expand on number 2 as well. So number 2 was your data is incomplete. But I also want to include in that like a big piece, and surprised Claude didn't pick up on it, was like your data's bad. So you've got big buckets of data that are either wrong because they're missing stuff, or they're wrong because there's just problematic stuff in the data. And it, again, you don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And I think you mentioned, Chris, when we first talked about this, that by being able to bring additional context into the CRM through maybe call transcripts, that it would actually correct for a lot of the bad, or counteract a lot of the bad data that's in the CRM.
I mean, it can certainly help highlight assumptions that are being made, you know, whether the data is good or not. Because I think like data can be seen as good or bad, like until you have the rest of the context. And then all of a sudden, I mean, this is I think at the core of marketing and sales misalignment. Like marketing's trying to do stuff with a limited data set that does not tell the whole story. Meanwhile, sales knows the whole story because they've been the ones interacting. We're not sharing that story together. So like that's where lead scoring looks like it's like good to the marketing team and bad to the sales team. And at the end of the day, there's like the context that sales has is the missing piece. So getting that, like, again, the humans are not good at this part. Like we've been proving that for decades. So let AI help get your transcripts in there. Stop complaining about how imperfect the HubSpot like note taker is. And that's why you got to do, like, just bring the data in. It's getting really good, by the way. Like
the human side of this is, think of, probably this has happened to you within the last week, that somebody has made an assumption that was completely false because they didn't have the facts. I used to work for a man who loved the 49ers, and Monday morning, well, this is two different stories, I guess. But anyway, Monday mornings in the office, if the 49ers lost, were like, we hid. It's like, he's coming. And everybody would duck and run. But his favorite thing to do was, like, especially when he was in that mood, is like see one thing out of context and then make 17 assumptions about why you did or didn't do a thing, what you had or hadn't done in addition to this, and like just lash out. And he was always wrong. He was always just wrong because I'm like, you're only looking at this little thing right here.
Mm-hmm.
How did you try to solve for it?
Oh my gosh, that was a whole nightmare situation. He owned the company. He was in charge. He cut everybody's paycheck. It was a hard situation.
All right. So, Erin, let's say you're brought in there, and you understand how risky it is to address most of the cultural and leadership problems with that situation. If we know that it's like friction is coming from assumptions, like how would you approach solving for that?
I think I run into this a lot too when I'm like building custom solutions and I haven't done a good job of setting the expectation and I'm letting them kind of fill in those assumptions. So I think it's a good, I think we're kind of getting at the core of what needs to be done, which is make it hard to assume things. And the only way to really do that is to make it dead simple to find the facts. Like if the facts are in black and white hitting you in the face, it takes one click to get there. Grumpy boss on Mondays has less excuses to only see one slice or only see like kind of cherry pick the piece that feels off. And so I think it kind of comes down to like what we always talk about, like the unified customer review, being able to have a place where you can go and see everything you need to see within reason, without a whole lot of context switching and like clicking around. It shouldn't feel like a scavenger hunt, because people will grow to resent that of like, well, let me click through 10 different things and find this like obscure property that nobody put on the CRM record so that I know what I need to know to go be able to do this. And like, that's why I hate HubSpot. It's like, yeah, I feel like I probably would too. So it's like finding ways to make it hard to assume things. And whether that's, putting it in black and white, having some kind of visual like graph, like, because a lot of times having some kind of report built in where like you can see the pretty colors and like the size matter, you're doing less to get the same amount of information back. Like I'm still glancing at the dashboard, but I don't have to read a paragraph about what's going on. I can see the chart. So kind of my goal would be to figure out what the kind of minimum amount of information the user needs to know to not be frustrated with what they have to do next. Like, I think that's a good baseline. Everything else above that is cake. Like if you want to add extra things, like, add extra cards, to the CRM record, add extra views, all of that kind of stuff. Like that's great. But the baseline functional, did this work or did it not, is whoever the user is needs to be able to get all of the information they need to be able to take the next step as frictionless as possible. Because if the information's not there and they don't feel like going to look for it, they're going to fill in that gap with an assumption. And it's natural. The boss is kind of an extreme where like it spirals a little bit and becomes like a positive feedback loop where every assumption leads to like 10 more assumptions. So the more you can kind of nip that in the bud and be like, what would be the easiest assumption to make that like, XYZ is there and maybe it's not. Like maybe you need to have, big call outs that say, hey, you do not have this information. You cannot make that assumption. It just, yeah, like I think being able to reduce the cognitive load of like, what do I need to know in this moment? And you have to kind of play that out at each moment kind of throughout the process, which is where it really becomes, why we get paid the big bucks to like figure all of this stuff out of like, how do you map each of these moments to a place in the CRM? But yeah, it's definitely something that I think it's a good rule of thumb is to try to tackle those assumptions. Like put yourself in the user's shoes. Like what would, like, if this was all I had to go on, what would I think? And carry that out to its logical conclusion and then kind of work backwards from there.
Nailed it. Yeah, like, and this is when you do the work on the data model side and understand the architecture, you create these scenarios where it's like, oh, look, we have a dashboard on a TV on a wall that now the leader comes in and they're going to do leader things. But like, since months ago or throughout the process of putting that TV on the wall where everybody agrees that is a source of truth and trusts it, the leader comes in and now everybody else is empowered. And you have to get these agreements like along the way, right? But when everybody else is empowered, to be like, oh, are we looking at the place that we agreed to look? Because it looks okay on here. I mean, we can change what the get to the view or whatever, but this is what we've agreed on. Is that still the agreement? And you just like cut any like the assumption like chain, like you just cut it off. Because that, especially with leaders, they always have more, they generally have more context than everybody else, that is actionable on behalf of everybody else. So like it's the biggest gap where there could be an unknown for everybody, like, and that's where you can't, it's very hard to defend against all these assumptions if out of nowhere they can say, well, this just changed the market. Obviously, it's like, okay, well, let's bring that into consideration. But what you're saying right now is based on this data that we've agreed on, and like we're looking at the same things.
Right. And I think a lot of the especially negative assumptions when it comes to data are these kind of knee-jerk reactions to past trauma of trusting the data when you shouldn't have. And so I think part of getting people on board with HubSpot and actually adopting these systems is building up that trust again and opening the floor to say this did not work before, and here's why. Here's how we're doing it differently, and how can you know you can trust this? Give people a way to kind of check in of is this something that's real? Do I have confidence in it? And then if they don't have confidence, that's when you're going to start to see those assumptions. That's when you're going to see so-and-so's got their own spreadsheet that they're looking at because they there's something there that they're not trusting yet. And like we said, if you don't address it, that's going to eat away at kind of everyone else's. We all kind of have to be in the same boat. You can't have your little life raft just for you, or this is not going to work. We're not all invested in the same way, and so I think the amount of assumptions being made goes down as trust is built in the system. So it's very much like a front-loaded thing to overcome and be really intentional about up front, where because you may build something, you may build the dashboard, they're looking at it, and now they're thinking, and something, this has unlocked something, and now there's something else that they need to know that we didn't really think about before, but now we're going to make assumptions because that's not there. And that's okay. That's a perfectly fine evolution of okay, I have this baseline now. How can I, improve from there and iterate on that? So I think it's important to just, especially in the early phases, be mindful of everyone's assumptions, of your own, of the teams, of the leaders, and use those as signals to kind of guide what you're implementing.
That lands for me. It definitely lands for me. Okay, one next problem that we agreed early on that we're seeing is really prohibiting people from adopting AI or being ready is not having ownership of the system.
Mm-hmm.
There's a piece of like every team is doing their own thing, or like you've got, even within that, you've got like maybe one person on a team who's really trying stuff and other people not so much. And every team's kind of doing their own thing. And there isn't really a centralized approach to it. At the time that we first talked about this, that was definitely the case. Are you guys seeing that change at all? Are organizations starting to clue into the fact that they need to have an owner?
I think that's what we're seeing play out is more of like an emphasis on a RevOps role, because I think what people are kind of coming to the conclusion, or at least the conclusion I have come to, is that everybody is going to work to stay in their lane and do their job because that's their job. And like, they're not, if it's not specifically assigned to them, it's just noise, essentially. And so having someone whose actual job function is to kind of own everything and figure out what everyone needs to know at each juncture, I think is more beneficial than saying, the services team who's not really in HubSpot a lot needs to also own HubSpot and be able to do all these things in HubSpot. Like, if that's not where you're spending your day-to-day, like, I think it's unfair to expect someone to take on systems outside of their kind of vertical at work. Because like I said, everybody's doing their best. We're just trying to like keep your head down, do your thing, like get everything done, do it well. But like, I don't have time to know what the sales team is doing. Like, y'all, like I trust the sales team to do your job well, and just clue me in on what I need to know. And so I really see that RevOps role as like, their job is to understand everything and give everyone kind of throughout the system the information they need to operate best in their lane without expecting that ownership. Because I think there's just like kind of a natural pushback to where, oh, I don't want to mess it up, or I don't know enough about this. I'm not in this every day. So I think it's more important to own how all the other systems interact with like your playing surface. I think like knowing how they relate is more important than knowing everything about or like owning all of the input to every other system. So it's a lot of cognitive load on the average person trying to work in their lane to be aware of the entire 10-lane highway. Like, that's a lot.
It's
and
a trap too.
Right. It's like
when
a
you
very
try to do it,
kind of nerd to like look at something like that and be like, oh, I can put these pieces together. And so,
right.
Yeah.
Well,
like
then you're inside of the organization, and like the 9 other lanes are not yours.
Right.
And it's like, oh man, this 9 out of 10 lanes are blocked. You're asking me to do, I cannot do this lane because like traffic is broken.
Mm-hmm.
And this like so much relates to the fifth learning, right? Like, readiness is organizational. If you don't have anybody internally leading this and responsible for it, you're just not going to get there. And like, sorry, leaders, you don't get to like AI can't help you bypass psychological safety. Like, still important. Like, it comes back to leadership and culture of like, who's going to own these safe spaces to like create system understanding, create human plus AI understanding. Because I think, like, as you mentioned, understanding the systems is one thing, understanding their interaction with the human system is another, right? And that's why when we had this, like when we did this episode, like this, if whatever they're called, an orchestrator in this case, like you don't get to get around like the human element of this. And I'm just gonna keep hammering that. So, and it was interesting, like when we did this before, Trisha, like I had you ask Claude just no context for a template for an AI orchestrator role. And it was basically like, oh, you got to know these 10 acronym technical like things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, oh, by the way, like there's like this little sentence about you're going to have to interact with other teams at some point. But it's always, you know, like you need to know how to build this and understand machine learning and neural networks and like, and always a learning curve when it comes to AI. You just give it to a little bit of context and say, well, what about the human? Aren't the humans like important? And it's like, oh yeah, here's a completely different like template, right? And it doesn't all have to be the same person, but like maybe it's the chief people officer and the AI like leader working together. But again, like if you don't, somebody needs to be in charge of asking the question, how do our humans work with AI? Not how does AI work? Right? And everybody's focused on that second question. And it's not easy to understand at every level, like how AI works, especially when you think you figured it out. And the human comes in, their irrational tendencies in the moment. And it's like, oh, I didn't think about that. Now AI just gave like the worst answer ever because it was like confirming bias towards like the human, what the human wanted, and like they're bought in the wrong way, and like all these things start to cascade. And like it's just it's been an interesting journey, like to kind of figure this out, and we're still trying. Like that's why we're here every week.
But if it feels like it's a rule that you don't have in your organization and you don't have a model that you can just copy, well, that's for really good reason. It's because AI has never happened to us before, and it's happening to us universally. Every person in every country on the planet is in the big scope of things as new to AI as everybody else is. We're all going through this for the very first time together at the same time. And we don't have infrastructure to lean on because of because of the universality of it. And to your point, Chris, like the human plus technical marriage together, where you need a solution that's going to speak to both sides. So my take is that if you haven't already figured this part out and started building it into your infrastructure, like this is the number one thing that you need to maybe focus on, because the rest of it is not going to come along until you acknowledge that this is different and requires a different model.
Yep. And there's so much opportunity for everybody. Like if you're at all worried about what's happening, like literally the total addressable market for AI transformation is every single business in the world.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and all you have to do, like, it's been so interesting to watch you and Casey, like, start doing content about like basics of AI and HubSpot and learning how to do Breeze. And now you guys are teaching people like basic level training. Anybody, like, I love you both, but literally, like, anybody can do that.
Anybody can
right
do
now, right? Like, anybody can just show your learning curve, show up, start learning AI in front of everybody else. And then now it creates the safe space for everybody else to start learning like in the same way. And I don't think there's anything else we can point to where literally the only way to learn is by like building with it, like using it. Like that's really the only way I've seen it sink in. So like the old way, the whole old way, like of taking classes, taking online courses, like answering all the questions right, and just everything has been turned on its head. Luckily, you don't have to do any of this on your own. Like AI is there, and it's just but it's a different paradigm. So I appreciate the opportunity so much to hang out with wonderful people like you each week, so that we can just have these conversations out loud, so that people have a chance to understand like they're not alone. And really, like at the end of the day, leaders, this is how easy it is. If you can start here, hey, we're all in this together. Everybody in the world's trying to learn this. We've never seen this before. Let's figure it out together, instead of everybody go use AI like to get your job done and let me know how it goes. Right? That's not readiness at all. And that's causing lots of friction out there, to say the least. So if you can start from this perspective, readiness starts with, just accepting that everybody else is going through this too. Like it's a step in the right direction compared to a lot of other companies. So we'll be back next week to continue talking about it, and maybe talk a little bit about like how you can look for help outside of the organization, and what AI data readiness looks like in partners.
That's a great idea.
Until then, I hope everybody has a great week. Thanks so much.
See you next time.
Michelle.